All right, welcome. So, for our final session today, we are going to be talking about social media. And on the screen in between our interstitials, you've probably seen us promoting an upcoming webinar. That's taking place on July 25th at 1 p.m. It's going to be a panel. Yours truly will be moderating. These next presenters will be presenting alongside Day Kibbolds, who is a VP at Ology. She is one of our creators who unfortunately was not able to be on site with us this week. She's in Chicago for the Case Marketing and Branding Conference instead. But you'll be able to see her join these two lovely ladies for a really great session on influencer marketing. So I definitely recommend signing up for that. But today, we have the pleasure of having Jenny Lee Fowler and Maya Demishkevich join us for this terrific session. Jenny and Maya are both newer Enrollify creators. Jenny hosts a terrific show on social media, and Maya's show, she's a CMO at Carroll Community College. She hosts The Hidden Gem. This is one of our newest shows on the network, and it is geared towards leadership and helping leadership specifically at community colleges understand the value of marketing. Maya's also a consultant and consults on social media specifically. Jenny, I failed to mention this, works at MIT and is the director of social media strategy. So I love that we are going to get to bring together someone who works at a 4-year institution and someone who leads at a 2-year institution for this session. I'm really looking forward to it. Maya, Jenny, come on up. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. Let me ask you a question first. How many of you have already implemented or plan to integrate AI into your social media content creation strategy? Raise your hand. Great. How many of you already have an influencer strategy at your college? Raise your hand. Okay, good. So you're in the right place. We'll talk about AI. We'll talk about different models for influencers in higher ed specifically. So I hope you leave this session with a lot of great ideas that you can take back to your institution. So some fun facts about me. I do like to grow my own shishitos, and I just like the word shishitos. That's why I have to say it. But I also like to teach meditation, yoga in my free time, as well as mind-body skills workshops. And like Melanie mentioned, I am the founder of College Crusaders, so I do help colleges with social media content.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Jenny Fowler. I am my 11-year-old daughter's full-time personal assistant. My side gig is director of social media strategy at MIT. I am a proud Android user, so any green bubbles? Yes, solidarity. I like to play tennis, and I fancy myself a novice dissectologist, which I recently learned is someone who likes to do jigsaw puzzles. So maybe you're a dissectologist too.
Okay, so as Jenny and I were preparing for this presentation, both of us believe that influencers should be part of your social media strategy. And here's why. In the world of AI, we believe authenticity matters more than ever. And those influencers have the power to showcase the unique culture, the personality of your institution, and that's really hard to replicate. Also, resources are limited, so why not leverage your faculty, your staff, your students to elevate your institution and help you create content that not only resonates with your target audiences, but also helps you increase trust and engagement in your community. And of course, there's so many great AI tools that you can use to help you streamline this content creation process, and we'll talk about that.
So who are the influencers? I know when you think of influencers, you think of like Ariana Grande or Kim Kardashian, but let's be honest. None of us are going to afford Kim Kardashian, and do we really want her to represent our brand? Is it and our values? Is it right? So what we're talking about are micro-influencers. So what's a micro-influencer? These are folks that have about 1,000 to 100,000 followers, and they really speak and engage to a niche audience. So it's a smaller community that they lead and that we're trying to tap into. Sinan Aral, who is a faculty member at Sloan School of Management, wrote this fantastic book about the science behind how social media works and how influencers work. And there's literally math to this, but basically the idea is that the more followers an influencer has, the less influential they are over any given follower. So it's almost like word of mouth, right? Kim Kardashian, she promotes a lip gloss. Not all 4 million of our Instagram followers are probably going to buy that lip gloss, right? But if there is someone you relate to, there's a new influencer, she recommends a lip gloss, it almost is like getting a recommendation from a friend. So chances are greater that you're gonna buy that lip gloss. So micro-influencers have fewer followers, but more engagement per post, which is really what we were looking for to gain a community.
And we have identified 4 different influencer models that will and can work great at your institution. So these are the 4 models, and we'll talk about each one in more details. The first one is the campus content creators. So these are your ambassadors on campus who can contribute and are contributing to your flagship account, social media. So in my college, for example, every semester we have at least 2 to 5 different student ambassadors helping us with content creation. They have access to our Instagram account, they have access to TikTok, so they go and post content. We also have representatives in different departments like admission, continuing education, who we have trained, and they also have access to our Instagram and Facebook, and they can go and do lives and talk about what's happening at any given time.
Right, and same with us at MIT. I have a group of student content creators. Some of them just create images for me and doodles and drawings. Some do vertical videos. And I recently launched a Be Real team, which is like a cross-section of our entire institution, from faculty members to grad students to athletic coaches. So that's a cool group that I'm really proud of that we just launched. But how do we recruit these students, our micro-influencers? Well, you will be surprised. Like, literally search day in the life of a, insert your school name here, student on YouTube. And there are so many students that are creating content like this, from vocational schools to 2-year institutions to 4-year institutions. And you will be surprised at who you'll find. So you can also search hashtag your school name on Instagram. And you can also do both of these on TikTok. And you will find a plethora of students that go to your institution that are making content already for you. So what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for good editing, right? You might not be a video editor, but you will know bad editing when you see it. So you want good editing. You want good presence. Are they too much of a strong personal brand themselves? You don't want them to usurp the brand that you want them to push for you, right, or your school. So you don't want them to be too influential by themselves. And view their partnerships. If they're already doing collaborations, look who they're collaborating with. Does it align with your values? Does it align with the audience of your institution? And watch their content. You know, there's a lot of students that sometimes pitch themselves to us, but we'll notice that they're sort of like trash talking the school, sort of, or humble bragging, and we really don't want any part of that. Are they saying any inaccuracy? So just make sure that like what they're saying in their content is aligned with what you want to align yourselves with. And of course, you want them to be an ambassador for your school, so it has to be a good fit. How do you approach them? You slide into their DMs. Like, people love it when brands interact with them on social media. I love it when brands interact with me on social media. So just approach them and ask if they want to work on a project basis. You can pay them by the hour. Honestly, some students will just do it for free because they're excited to be on the flagship channel. So just see what you can work with, what you can work out. And just really quickly, I wanted to say it's important to lay some ground rules once you get the collaboration going. I like to just say, please don't get me fired. That usually does the trick. But I'll give them, space to be creative. Once you set the partnership, just allow them to create, because they will create things that you would have never thought of in the first place. So give them space to do that. And of course, finding campus content creators is a lot of the same steps. Social listening and monitoring, following the affiliate channels, and just reaching out. But at the end of the day, give them the byline or give them the social credit and put their names that they produced the piece of content. It goes a long way in building relationships.
So the second model is campus advocates. These are the people who already have their personal brand established online, and they are creating content and posting it on their LinkedIn, on their Instagram. So these are your advocates that already exist, or you can also train them, and I'll talk about that a bit later.
Yep. And same with us. We have folks that are really strong in different social media channels, and we always love to amplify what the content they're creating and what they're putting out there.
So if you don't find advocates like this on your campus, I believe you should be creating your own advocates. That's why at my college, we launched a program that I called Employee Impact Initiative. And to this date, I have trained about 20 different faculty and staff members, including our president and our cabinet members. And I've trained them on how to build their personal brand online and how to represent the college and how to grow our reach through their existing network. So there's a lot I can talk about here on how to recruit, how to start, but I have created a guide for you. So if you're interested, you can download because there are just so many details to talk about and we don't have enough time. Okay. The next one is campus collaborators. So these are your subject matter experts, people who are willing to work with you to create content and post on your official accounts. So in my case, you see some examples of faculty members, Clyde Johnson, who is our diversity, equity, and inclusion person. So they are willing to share what they know, and we are willing to post what they have to share.
And of course, I think 90% of our content is all focused on our people, our students, our faculty members. We do TikTok quick series with our faculty as well. So we want to really utilize all of the members of our community because they're really what makes us what we are, right?
Right, it shows you the human side of your college. So how do you find those campus collaborators? This could be anyone on campus, from financial aid officer to your admissions department to your counselors. Anyone who has the knowledge is a great person to collaborate with on this content creation. Okay, and the fourth model is influencer partnerships. So this is when you engage with external members of your community. This could be alumni or someone else in your community. So in my case, for example, we worked with a musician, local musician, to help us promote our music classes at Carroll. And we are starting to work with Maria, who is our alumni. And she also has her own Facebook group where she talks to Spanish-speaking people in our county. And she's very passionate about sharing resources. So she's a great influencer for us to reach that particular audience.
And when you start to build these influencer partnerships, just sort of real quick, guidelines are important. Vet them. Please do a Google search at the very least. Define your goals. What are your KPIs? Be very clear on the collaboration and what you're trying to build. Is it a sponsored post? Is it a giveaway? You want to be really clear on. And also really be clear on the budget up front and pay them on time, please. And then give them creative freedom because that's what you're partnering for, is their creativity.
Right, so we talked about the 4 different models. So now let me give an example on how you can actually integrate AI into this content creation process. In this particular case study, I'm working with campus collaborators. So before doing any content for social media, you should have a strategy. We will not talk about strategy today because there's just too much, but this is a reminder that you need to have it in place. And it should include your brand promise, your content pillars, what are the channels, the audiences, etc. So what is the process that I like to follow? I love steps. Yesterday I shared 4 steps. Today it's 6 steps. It's all about creating questions first, and then scheduling a photo shoot with a particular subject matter experts. Then you take this content, you dice it into pieces, you transcribe it, create, and then post. So in this particular case, I worked with an instructor in our continuing education program, and he's teaching our drone classes. So what I wanted to do first is to create questions. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, okay, create a set of questions for this particular faculty member to align with my content pillars to address different target audiences on different channels. So I did include my strategy in there so it knows what kind of questions to ask. And then ChatGPT gave me this amazing output by audience, by channel, and all of those questions. I looked through the questions and I noticed that there's a lot of overlap. So I went back to ChatGPT and I said, hey, can you create a table for me and show where the overlap is? And the video is not playing right now, but it shows how it gave me this beautiful table, and it has like check marks next to the one that overlap and X's next to the one that don't. So it was very, very helpful. And it is playing right now. You can probably see it. But yeah, so it saved me so much time. And then the next step was to schedule a photo shoot with this particular individual. We spent an hour asking those questions, and then we also did about half an hour of B-roll type of video. Once I got the footage back, I used this AI tool video where you upload content, and Brian talked a little bit about this, and it dices this long an-hour video into smaller 30 seconds to 90-second videos. So ultimately, you get this huge library of content broken down by topics, by questions, and then once you pull out the transcript from the video, you can create articles, you can create testimonials, emails, carousel for Instagram, and etc. So possibilities are limited, and you only, to this point, spend about 3 hours of your time. So these are just some examples that we have created out of that particular interview. So we did an article about drone classes. We did a video that features that particular instructor where he talks about the benefits and the careers, and we ran this ad on social media. We posted some behind-the-scenes videos and photos, and then pulled out some testimonials. So super easy, saves you tons of time.
Okay, so using AI to scale social media, a lot of us, or many of those in higher ed, are teams of one, right? And so, we kind of just came up with buckets of how we like to use social ChatGPT or generative AI. It's an idea generator. A lot of times I think of ChatGPT or generative AI as like a search engine on vitamins. And so we're gonna try to think of ideas anyway, like what did I do, or what I need an idea for July, coming up Independence Day. And so you're gonna have like a brainstorming session probably with yourself, but instead of with yourself, have one with ChatGPT, and you become more effective and you become more efficient. So ask it questions you would ask it, you would ask yourself, and then just have that conversation, except with ChatGPT, and you will be so surprised at what you come up with. So it's like not doing the work for you, it's making you better and making you more efficient, right? So it's also a writing tool. You're creating the content, but it's helping you with like summarizations, teasers, headlines. I know a lot of our folks before us talked about this, but you can ask it things like, write me a good headline for SEO, or emails. I use it to say, can you help me make this email more confident sounding? I have girlfriends that actually put in emails and say, can you make this email make me sound like a man? So it's like you can use it for tone and voice and to help you with things that you might, you want to improve on. So it's also visual content generation. I know a lot of folks talked about this earlier, but there's, Brian listed a whole bunch of tools that I wrote down myself, but there's Vidio, Canva, graphics, that's generative AI. How many of you use Grammarly? Yeah, that's generative AI. So you probably didn't know you were using AI already, but look, you're ahead of the curve and you didn't know it. There's photo editing, all of the options that are within platform that do all of these cool things, like take away, someone in a photo that was photobombing your face. That's all generative AI, and so and it's there to help you. So the visual content generation And like Brian said so eloquently, better than I can, you can use it for analytics and insights and take all of those spreadsheets and ask it things to analyze your social media content, where there are opportunities, where you might not be filling, there's voids to fill and opportunities to capitalize on. So BuzzSumo is also a tool that works really well for that aspect. And just something to consider, and I think Brian mentioned this too, so we're just reiterating a lot of what other people have said, but you do want to create some kind of guidelines or policy to be transparent about how you are using these tools. Ours is open to the public. It's not behind a firewall. So if you do a Google search on like MIT News guidelines on generative AI, it will be there. And it just tells you how we use it. We say humans are still writing our content, but we might use it for headlines. We might use it for summaries. We have taken this step and said we will not use it for images. So you just have to let it align with how you function as a department.
And that's kind of the end of our presentation. This is my podcast, so I hope you do take a listen. I do talk a lot about community colleges and how marketing communication can elevate community colleges' success.
Yeah, and this is me. I do content on social media management, but particularly those of us who are in the higher ed space. Not just tactics, but tactics and concerns or things or problems we've all had during our careers and while we're hustling to try to get the job done. So I talked to a lot of my colleagues in this space. And I think you all saw like sheets and bookmarks. Please take a pic. This is your last time to take a picture of the presentation. And if you share it on your social channels, use hashtag Engage Summit, tag Maya and I, and we will each pick someone to win a copy of the book. So we're going to have 2 winners, and we will announce them by this afternoon. I'm sure we'll slide into your DMs and let you know if you won. So, and also if you want to get a copy, this is a code just for you all to get 20% off if you do go to the Kogan Page Publishing website to order a copy. Yeah, and if your social media manager is not here, maybe you would like to buy them a copy of the book. But thank you all for your time, and we have time for questions.
Yes, we do. We have time for a few questions, and I see Chris has already got his hand up, so here we go.
Great presentation. One question about all of the different influencers and groups and people that you're working with. When you talk about budgeting and looking at your budget and being upfront about the amount of money that you can put toward this, for both of your campuses, what kind of budget are you working with these individuals? And how have you been able to advocate for that budget with the powers that be?
Right. So for us, I primarily use students. And we pay them hourly. So it's not that they're not full-time positions with us, so it's not like they require 10 hours a week. It's when it's project-based. So I will have one student and I'll say, can you create an image for us for Pi Day? And I'll say, don't forget to tag, mark your hours. And she'll just say like 2 hours this week. And then I might not work with her for another couple of months, and then it might be another 3 hours. Our TikTok creators, they do more hours because it takes them longer to shoot and edit things, but it's per project, and it's minimum wage for the state of Mass. I think that's national, right? It's minimum wage, and usually like after a year we'll like give them $1 raise, and we'll give them another $1 raise. But yeah, that's how we do it.
For us, our students are part-time workers, and I do pay them hourly, and I do believe you have to pay your students if you want to get the good work out of them. You can get someone to work for free, but it's not going to be consistent, it's not going to be the quality you expect, and I do invest a lot in our students because we have a comprehensive training for each of them. So I do try to recruit a student in their first year in college because they only stay with us for 2 years. So I want to capitalize on the time we have and the investment I put into them. For our faculty and staff training that we do, it is coming out of my time. I do the training, and my digital marketing officer, she has a new title, I forgot it, but she's helping me out with that as well. So we usually do those trainings in cohorts of 6 to 8 people, and we would run 2 or 3 simultaneously.
Yeah, we try to identify first-year students too, because it goes by so quick.
Who's next? Well, I do have a question from the live stream, so I'll insert that now while you're all thinking about your next question. One of our live stream viewers texted me, they want you to speak a little bit more about alumni as influencers. I think if I'm interpreting the question correctly, when you're on a campus and you see your students, right, it can be a little easier to access a current student for this type of work. So how much are you really working with alumni, and what's your process for recruiting them, keeping them engaged, et cetera, et cetera?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for us it would be the same. And this is the sweat equity that you have to put in that right now ChatGPT cannot do for you, right? Is that you have to do social listening, social monitoring, see who your affiliates are following, because a lot of affiliates follow alumni as well. See who's following you, and see who does a really, really good job in creating content. So they might do their own experiments, or maybe they do their own show their own life in a day of like an alumni, and they do really, really good work. I literally reach out to them and say, I really like what you did there in that Instagram or that reel, or I really enjoy your drawings and the graphics you put out, or the illustrations you create. Can you do that for me? And would you do that for the flagship channels? And I don't think anyone's ever said no. People really like to be asked. It's flattering to be asked. And so, but it's finding the right person, right? Like, you don't want a person that starts to go rogue. I mean, you have to find a person that's like a really, really good representative of your organization. But yeah, it's like that's where like the sweat equity of listening and monitoring comes in, and that takes time. And sometimes you can, if you have a student worker or a student intern, you can kind of do that. Have them do that for you. But it is a project.
So for me, I would say we had 2 students who were our ambassadors. Because we are a transfer school, they transferred to a 4-year institution. And while at a 4-year institution, they were majoring in marketing because they loved it so much, and they had to get an internship. So they came back to us as alumni talking about their transfer experience, which was amazing because everyone wants to know what it's like to go from a community college to a 4-year school, and they were able to showcase and highlight that experience on their own example. And that's, like I said, not something you can replicate. AI cannot do this for you. That's why having those people is so, so crucial to the success of your social media, and your institution as a whole. And then I mentioned Maria, who is our graduate as well. She's a Spanish speaker, and she has her own Facebook group. So we're starting to work with her as an influencer to help share information about the college with her group, and we are going to pay her for this particular engagement. Like I said, I believe you need to compensate people for the work they do for you.
I can't agree more. One more question? All right.
Worried.
I know. Leaving out.
Do you typically work with your students and influencers to script out things, or do you just give them general ideas and send them off? And then do you vet the content before it's posted?
That's a good
Yes.
question. Go for it.
So we just give a topic, and they do everything from soup to nuts. But yes, I review everything before it publishes.
In our case, it depends on the student and how advanced they are and how much they understand social media and know. A lot of people believe that students are comfortable with social media, which is not the case. They're very hesitant to show their face on social media. It takes a lot of training to overcome those fears. But it really does depend on the students. Some students just hit the ground running once we train them, and they can comfortably create content and post it. But we do give them messages, because I think that's the hardest thing for them to come up with because they don't really know what specifically to talk about. So we would give them like a starting point. And as part of the company I have that I mentioned on the side is I do provide scripts to organizations like community colleges where they can take 15 different scripts for TikTok and Instagram, give it to your students, and just have them create content. This is great, especially for someone who is new to social media and is still learning. But yeah, you can do it in a variety of different ways. And sometimes they create content, I have no idea what it means. Like if you, you know, and I have to like Google stuff. Recently they created a video that kind of went viral for us, and it talked about Sigma and something else, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? What is this? So I did have to Google, and they do educate me a lot on all the slang and
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking them questions a lot about the content.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. One last picture and then post it to social. You may win
Two
a
copies.
copy.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
I read it, so I highly recommend.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, let's put our hands together for Maya and Jenny.